there will be no real non-controlled currency in the world.
We're coming for you, banks.
And this is exactly what these Bitcoin Cash people are building.
Shout out to the Dragon Riders and the House of the Dragon.
Because it's a completely different situation than it was 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's how frogs get boiled. And they added a bunch of new opcodes and they're doing a bunch of things over there.
It will be the most hated rally ever because a lot of people from some propaganda hate Bitcoin Cash.
Hello and welcome back to the Bitcoin Cash podcast, following Bitcoin Cash on its rise to global reserve currency. This is episode number 180, ParyonUSD launch and conference representation featuring Mathieu Geukens. Today is Saturday, the 9th of May, 2026. In the markets, BCH is at $450 $17, which is flat. One BTC sat buys 178.5 BCH sats, also flat, and one ETH buys 513 megasats, also flat. Selene 30-day users at 644, and the Tokenaut TVL down a little at 10,305 BCH. Our guest today is a regular. I'm sure many listeners will have heard him on the show many times before, but he's constantly raising the bar in terms of his output for the BCH community with Cashnize Wallet, CashScript tooling and library, and now ParyonUSD, among other projects. Mathieu, welcome back to the show. How are you doing, man?
Thank you. Yeah, doing well. Very excited to be on. And indeed, I'm happy to be on again. So I've been on a couple times, but a lot has happened since December. So I'm excited to talk about it and all the progress we made, including the launch.
Do you think BCH is speeding up? Is that what it feels like? Like you said, December was, 5 months ago. It wasn't that long ago, but it kind of feels like it.
Yeah, I think there were some projects who were long in the works, including Paryon, and then it takes a while for it to have it truly finished and then do the launch. So I think that's why it feels that it's accelerating, but really these things take years of work. So but it's only real once it's out, of course. That's when the users and the investors, that's when the utility actually manifests, because before then it's just testing on a test network, and that doesn't create value in the real world. So
yeah, obviously we have BLISS coming up as well. We will touch on that later, but I just want to give everyone a quick reminder to upgrade their nodes. You've got to be ready on v29.0.0 for BCHN and for being there at BLISS as well too. So everybody can be prepared for that. I'm leaving to arrive on Tuesday, so I'll be there Wednesday and Thursday. If you're there early, come say hi to me, and if you're there on time, also come say hi to me. But I've got to remind everyone that I'm very likely not to recognize you unless we've met in person a few times. I do my best, but I am terrible at recognizing people from their screen names, or that I've only met one time before. But you're going to be there. You're going to be speaking. Got something big in the works for us there?
So I'm happy to first give I guess similar to what I'll be doing today, give an overview of how the journey was of building ParyonUSD, shipping it, and then, of course, leading up, also mentioning some of the challenges, things that other builders can learn. And then next, also, what things we still have in store and what our plans are, what we think are the important areas for us to focus on. And so, that's what we want to talk about. And that would be on the second talk on day one. And then after me, Richard will talk, and Richard is also part of the ParyonUSD team. And so he will do a bit of a broader talk, I think, on tooling and infrastructure, but I won't spoil too much about what he's talking about. So day one will be quite ParyonUSD packed, I think.
Yeah, I'm just thinking back on that. I don't know that we ever got a sequel to the original talk you did about the state of the cash tokens ecosystem, right? I thought that might become a yearly recurring thing, checking in on the stats, how it's all going, but maybe somebody else is going to have to give that talk, or maybe we even need to just wait a couple more years and then have it be like cash tokens after 5 years or something like that. Because
5 years would be a good recap. That's like a nice number.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I think cash tokens has been just crushing it, basically, which when you go back in history was not like preordained. I mean, I was very confident at the time, but it's always funny to think back to people who were like doubting it, or like, oh, it's going to be another SLP token, it's not going to be that great, or after Smart BCH. But I feel like that part of the ecosystem has really proven itself, and I don't see anybody doubting or dismissing that at all, really, anymore.
Yeah, I think part of it is also back then you needed to make like theoretical arguments. Or the difference between cash tokens and SLP, someone could build an AMM DEX, or someone could build a decentralized stablecoin protocol. So it was all like theoretical arguments. It's like, but then now it's all real, right? People are shipping these things, and you can use the products. You can see them being announced and see them in the builder groups. People building the new IDs. So I like that the most, is that things going from ID. I think even the idea of a decentralized stablecoin was on that year one cash tokens in review. Was one of the last slides, like what will happen next, or what projects are we likely to see. So I think that's also part of the reason why there's no vocal critics. I think like there's the people who like cash tokens and want to get involved, and then there's the people who just kind of ignore it and are not focused on BCH for the moment. So we need to convert, but I don't think there's any skeptics or critics that I know of, at least.
Yeah, which is a pretty rare thing, but I think it's worth taking a moment to reflect on, just because so much of it is not actually anything to do with the tech at all, in terms of it's about trust, right? Because everybody's saying, oh, no, cash tokens is, well, some people, including me, say cash tokens is going to be good. Don't worry, it's going to work out. Then after it does work out, everybody who at the time was a bit hesitant can kind of be reassured, like, oh, wait, people did actually know what they were doing, right? And you just see across the crypto ecosystem this constant back and forth where some projects, some teams are promising these great upgrades are going to fix everything, and then the upgrades arrive and like nothing happens. So it's rare. I mean, there's a lot of examples, right? That's definitely topical at the moment that people are talking about that. So I don't really want to pick on them specifically, but just in general, right? How do people build? Because for users that are not able to technically evaluate the specifics of each individual thing, which is a tiny fraction of people, right? To be technical enough and specifically specialized in blockchains to, evaluate the projects on that merit, very difficult. But everybody else has to do it off kind of social heuristics combined with their own judgment. So I think it's just such a good sign for BCH that we promised and then delivered. And then that's also why the following upgrades have not been as controversial, or, I mean, there's been discussion obviously in the lead up to them, but I think people are feeling good about that. Yeah. Do you want to talk quickly about the Layla upgrade? Where does that fit into your worldview?
Oh, well, so we were with CashCrypt, we were one of the few projects who actually had to prepare. And we, Jeremy, you and I, we talked about this in preparation for the BLISS hackathon. So we want to get some of the tooling ready. So specifically, CashCrypt allows you to create smart contracts and smart contract transactions. And so now with the Layla upgrades, we will have loops, so new opcodes to do loop operations. We also will have some of the limits tweaked, like the NFT commitment size will be expanded. There will be the new pay to script, that will be a new standardized output type. So that also we supported in CashCrypt. And then one thing we didn't get to yet with CashCrypt is the functions, so the reusable functions. So that's a more advanced thing that's on our roadmap for November. So definitely something we have been working on. And Roscoe will also be speaking at BLISS on everything related to CashCrypt, what we have done, how the Layla upgrades fits in, and then also what's still in the pipeline for later this year.
Does any of that Layla stuff directly play into Parion? I mean, you've launched ahead of the upgrade, so presumably it doesn't need any of those, but does it add anything, or is it going to impact a future version or an upgrade or something like that?
Yeah, so funny enough, we had quite a few questions about this because people say people want you to use the latest and greatest, of course. But so we don't need it. There could be some small optimizations, but in the grand scheme of things, it would just be like transaction size and transaction fee improvements. So they wouldn't be too meaningful. One thing that it theoretically enables, because loops allow for extra flexibility, is that you can create more composable contracts. But so currently, that's also not a real immediate benefit. But you could imagine that having more composable contracts in the long run, would be a benefit. So that's one thing that does come to my mind of how the new primitives could help new contracts.
And do you have any feeling in general about the VM? I've been saying that there's sort of like this trilogy of cash tokens, Velma, Layla, and then I'm expecting that discussions for next year or the year after are going to focus on something different. It seems like the VM is kind of in a good state, and we're not, maybe some small tweaks or optimizations somewhere, but there's fundamentally kind of no big limiting factor on what can be built on BCH now. Is that how you're seeing it?
Yeah, definitely. So I hope to see people experiment with some of the very advanced things you can do in smart contracts, like zero knowledge proofs. So for this, you definitely need functions and loops. So I think the new upgrade is what enables those advanced applications, including of course Jason Dreisner's quantum roots. So if you want to do new cryptography in smart contracts to enable new kinds of signature schemes, that's also a lot of an area with a lot of potential for research, not only for quantum but just generally. New cryptography always enables similar to Schnorr signatures, which are on the same curve but still enabled some new use cases. So I think that's one of the areas we will see innovation with the new Layla upgrade.
Do you have any thoughts on quantum? I know you've been jumping in on the discussion a little bit here and there. How worried are you that we're all about to get wrecked by a quantum computer?
Not for the immediate future. I'm not worried at all. But I do try to listen to both sides. For example, you shared a clip of the conference, I think, and there in Vegas, I think it was also discussed at the BTC conference, and there the skeptics came out stronger. They had at least I agreed with that assessment. But I'm going back and forth a bit, so I'm definitely no expert. And I do think BCH is in a very good position because partly because of the upgrade we're activating in a week from now. So because you can do InScript, can use these advanced primitives to construct alternative signature schemes, and so to be quantum ready way in advance of needing like a coordinated rollout. And of course, once you add something to consensus, you commit to it with all its trade-offs, and you cannot reverse it. So then that's a much higher bar to meet compared to just allowing experimentation.
Yeah, that debate was really interesting. It was from the BTC conference. James O'Byrne and Reardon were on the skeptic side, and Hunter Beast and his name's Alex something or something like that were on the like sort of pro quantum or quantum scare side, I guess you could say. And everyone can make up their own mind watching that debate, but I felt like the anti-quantum team, just there was a hands down victory. Like not even a lot of room for discussion there, which to me sort of like indicates that maybe some of the quantum upset in the industry is a little bit artificial, or it's a bit premature, or certain people are getting a bit carried away with worry about quantum, because if these two guys who are at the leading edge of the quantum research, and they had this huge stage in the BTC conference, and they just got wrecked in a debate. Well, kind of maybe it's not as worrying as everybody believes then,
Yeah. So I do think the Google paper that initially sparked a lot of debate, I do think that was like a reason for caution, and for many people it was also just the reason why they did more research into this whole quantum stuff. But then later, I think the name was Project 11. They tried to they gave out a bounty and say, oh, we did some more groundbreaking research, but then it was widely understood that this was actually not any groundbreaking research. They kind of fudged the results, so the quantum computer didn't do any relevant part of the computation. Only the classical computer kind of, as I understand, pre-computed the result. So of course that gives a bad name, because then if part of the research the quantum side is putting out is not fully honest or complete in what they're communicating, then it's easy to become more skeptical overall. So I'm in the middle. I do follow it pretty closely, because maybe at some point either way it becomes clear whether it will be able, like whether there will be a breakthrough pretty soon, or whether it's a decade away or something.
And are you then interested in / open to, or anywhere close to, on these ideas about burning Satoshi's coins, or even limiting the release of them somehow, or some other kind of quantum mitigation? Or are you just kind of like, leave the coins, we'll just face tank a 1.7 million dump? Even if that happens, like, it's not going to happen all at once, probably, property rights.
Yeah, I have engaged in some of the discussions, so I'm sure people can find my opinions if they really want to, but I don't feel strongly enough to widely broadcast. Like I said, I'm monitoring the situation, and so for now, I don't think there's any reason to be super concerned. But as BCH devs, including yourself, Jeremy, I think it's good that we keep watch out. I know you did a post also monitoring the situation.
Yes. Yeah. I like that meme. I think that summarizes it quite a lot, It's one of those memes that is like full circle. Like, it starts out as a joke, like, I'm monitoring the situation. And then they had that picture of those guys in the White House, in the American government, were like scrolling on Twitter, like trying to figure out what was going on in the Iran war or something like that. And then it became like, wow, we really are monitoring the situation. And then it came back around again as a meme. So quantum is kind of like in that perfect category where it's like, no, we're monitoring the situation, haha. But also we are, like, seriously, we are monitoring the situation. So.
Yeah. And so just to conclude that thought, like, everyone has like opinions, but I've noticed immediately that it's a divisive subject. So hopefully, I'll leave it at that. So,
well, it can be divisive, but that's why it's important that we talk about it, because if we don't talk about it, that's how it will get even more divisive, is when communication breaks down. I mean, I've been thinking, I sort of feel like my opinion on it is kind of like if we're all in a village, and I gave this metaphor of a huge amount of water that was like frozen up the top of a mountain that could just dump down and kill the village. But the more I thought about it, I thought maybe a better way of explaining it is like, we're all in a village and there's worry about like some kind of ice yeti coming out of the, the forest to attack us all, right? And there's basically two options, right? If you believe that there is a yeti, then you're obviously going to be concerned about it. We should make a Yeti defense plan. Obviously. But if you don't believe in a Yeti, you should also want a Yeti defense plan. Why? It's very simple. Because if you're right and there is no Yeti, the creation of this Yeti defense plan is the quickest way to calm down everyone who's worried about the Yeti, right? Telling them, don't worry, there's no Yeti, don't worry about it, or like, it's not going to be a problem or anything, is not going to help you communicate with the people who are worried. It's just going to make them more stressed and create division, right? You should say, no, make a plan. And once we all have a good plan, then, problem will be solved. And then the second thing is, if you're skeptical that there is a Yeti, and then there is, you're going to need the Yeti plan, right? So like, all roads lead to, we should just have a good plan that's been well discussed. And I think that's happening as long as people can, keep that open mind to it, really. Okay, let's talk Paryon.
I do get a little bit of a feeling like this is just another wave of like technology doomerism, where it's like, with cryptocurrency, I feel like I haven't seen this argument in a long time, but with all the proof of work stuff being like, oh, that it's horrible for the environment. And then LLMs became popular, and they're like, oh, these data centers are horrible for the environment. Like when people are becoming dumber and all this. And I feel like, yeah, quantum computers will be the next. The so-called experts will be like, oh, we gotta put all these like check marks in place. We gotta, have the watchtowers up, and it's gonna be a big nothing.
Maybe. I mean, that's I think highly like. I mean, I saw a clip on Twitter earlier today of Bernie Sanders in 2020 saying, if we don't immediately pass this, whatever, multi-trillion-dollar like climate deal, then the whole planet is going to be wrecked in like 6 years or something like that. And then in hindsight, there's always a market for alarmism. And so somebody is always going to be trying to sell fear, like panic, FUD. That's why it's called FUD. Somebody's always going to be trying to sell that. But at the same time, nothing ever happens isn't real, right? And you never want to be the one who's just caught out with no plan. That's exactly how you get. That's the same. The dinosaurs were like, oh, meteors, that's FUD, and then they got wrecked. So, like, that's kind of how it is. Banking institutions were like, oh, Bitcoin, this is some FUD that's going to go away, and then it didn't. So you're always trying to really balance those two concerns. But I see what you're saying. I think you might be right. All right. Anyway, let's get on to Paryon. So this is your project that you announced 1 year ago at Bliss. And as you were saying before the show, it's now going to be live and in prod at the next Bliss. So congratulations on that. You have a stats site. I updated the stats yesterday, but it's probably already changed again. It's been growing super fast.
It changes continuously, yeah.
So you've got 1,590 BCH TVL, which is $700,000 roughly. You've got 377,000 PUSD borrowed and 113,000 staked. Tell us about Paryon. Congratulations. And yeah, where did it all get started? Maybe let's go from the beginning and then get up to the launch.
It started more than 2 years ago, so it's been a long journey. But so the public announcement was roughly 1 year ago, and and so there was an announcement talk at Bliss, unveiling it for the first time. The name of the talk was redacted beforehand, so it wasn't too obvious. Because if it would be called ParyonUSD announcement talk, then it's clearly a stable coin. Now it's shipped and live for over a week. And it has been awesome to get user feedback, get into user hands. Especially, we wanted to get the UX very, very nice. So, that's we have done a lot of polish, and there were a lot of positive feedback for that. And also, we made this stats dashboard that you referenced, so you can see live stats on all the current state of the protocol. So, for example, here this is the protocol overview with daily snapshots of 3 things. So you can see the green, the pink, and the blue, which is respectively the BCH total value locked, the borrowed amount of ParyonUSD, and then lastly the staked amount of ParyonUSD. And also the green will always be higher than the pink and will be larger than the blue. So they grow together. And I think today was the first time, if you look at the live snapshots, that it's slightly the total value is slightly decreased, and that's because we enabled redemptions. So we had a kind of rollout plan where we had some safety buffer on the collateral ratio, and we also initially for the first week we disabled redemptions in the UI, and now we turned it on. So now it's easier. Now it's possible for people to create redemptions. So presumably this small dip was either people repaying their loans, so closing their position, or creating a redemption, which also shrinks the total value locked. So I want to see this graph up and to the right. But of course, it's a stable coin, so people already made the joke like, no, it should be flat. But the price chart, of course, should be stable at $1. But this total value locked and this ParyonUSD in circulation can grow orders of magnitude.
Well, you said that it's been over 2 years that you've been working on this project, and I think maybe let's just pause on that for a moment, because it's been very noticeable that this, even just this last couple of weeks, but in general over the last year, let's say, stable coins have become so much more a part of the conversation outside of BCH in the broader cryptocurrency. It seems the more the banking system gets their fingers into the industry, they kind of really like stable coins because it's maybe more similar to what they know, and they can sell kind of a line about, well, crypto is not that revolutionary. It's just, you know, a new way of doing the same old thing. Maybe it's slightly more efficient, but we'll just control and regulate it. You know, they can kind of dismiss the edges or the wilder bits of crypto and just kind of stick to what they know, or maybe that's just the first step of them integrating it into their existing products in a way that their customers are comfortable with. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about why you, because you could have done anything in BCH, but why you specifically went for a stable coin, and seems like you've been on a winner because you've kind of front run the industry waking up to how important it is, which means you're launching kind of at the perfect moment.
Oh yeah, thanks. I do think our the moment we're launching is good. So I agree on that point. So why did we pick a stable coin to build? Is so we definitely wanted to build something on top of cash tokens, right? So we were enabled by the cash tokens upgrade on BCH, and so and we wanted to build something within DeFi, so a clear finance application. And one of the things that became quite clear is you can also make a lending and borrowing protocol where you just have existing tokens. They call it, I think, money markets like Aave. But for that, you need like existing big tokens that people want to trade. And of course, if you're on a new ecosystem, then there are no big tokens. So one of the requirements that we also had was it needs to be something that you can launch from scratch without a big supporting ecosystem. So you don't have any big existing liquidity pairs or no big existing tokens. So that was the mindset. And also, of course, we knew that volatility is a big problem in crypto. So, for example, if we look at any hedge that was originally mainly pitched as a hedging solution, because of the volatility problem, or at least a lot of people don't want to always deal with this, or want an option to be able to hedge some of this risk. So we understood that was a big problem. And then also in DeFi, it's very clear that people want some kind of APY, similar to how you have your savings account in a bank. They can offer interest rates, and so it's a compelling savings product. And so in the same sense, you want there to be, maybe the risks are not the same, so I don't, that's not what I'm not saying the risks are equivalent, but I'm just saying people want APY because otherwise the BCH they hold is just sitting idle. So people might want to take on some risks, like we see also with AMM dexes, to provide liquidity and then earn over time, hopefully fully understanding what the money is doing and any relevant risks when there are. So that was very enticing. And then lastly, it's not only a stable coin, there's not only an APY aspect, but there's also a borrowing aspect, like I mentioned. But you borrow not against an existing asset, but you kind of borrow against a newly created asset. So this is then the PUSD stable coin. So that was really the combination of factors, both the technical aspects, then the timing, and then also that the fact that it combines multiple of these DeFi primitives: borrowing, staking, and then stability or hedging against volatility.
Yeah, and so it's based on the Liquidity V2 protocol, which is similar to Moria with MUSD, but it seems like even though you both have based it on that same design, you've kind of come out with slightly different implementations. I still don't fully understand the exact nuances of the differences there. Can you walk us through that and why Liquidity V2 is the popular model when there's tons of different ways to do stablecoins?
Yeah, I definitely can. So the reason I've heard this now a few times, so maybe we should consider making like a comparison overview or something. But the reason we have not done so is because then you're just comparing two options, so you're really putting yourself in competition or comparison with something else. So then almost the goal seems to give green checks and red crosses or something, which is not something we want to do. So yeah, we explicitly modeled after Liquidity v2. And the reason we did is what was a breakthrough with them is kind of the market-driven interest rates. So interest rates is very important to the stability mechanism and also to the APY. So it plays a key role. Also, I think that mirrors the general economy. Interest rates are crucial for how money flows through the economy. And also in DeFi, so there will be a DeFi interest rate. And the nice thing about Liquidity v2 is that it thinks in these terms. It thinks about how do we make a DeFi native interest rate, like a going interest rate that's only based on the native asset, in this case, Bitcoin Cash, and then the protocol on top, which issues the ParyonUSD. So we try to be as close as possible, and we have a whole section on the documentation. There are differences, so with all the differences, and some of them are minor, so about limits, what's the minimum and maximum borrowing size, things like this. But also there's differences because the protocol was designed for EVM, and to make it work for UTXOs, you have to do some architectural changes. So it's correct to say it's inspired or based off on that idea, but it's it has important differences, and then I would refer people to the documentation. And so earlier stablecoins, decentralized stablecoins, because centralized stablecoins are just a whole other beast. For that, you mainly need good banking partnerships and licenses and connections higher up with the legislative branch and things like that. But for decentralized stablecoins, the first popular example was DAI, which has since been rebranded to the Sky stablecoin, but I'll still refer to it as DAI. And the protocol was called MakerDAO. And so DAI initially was single assets, similar to how ParyonUSD is only single assets collateralized by Bitcoin Cash. And in the case of MakerDAO, that was, of course, Ethereum. But so what MakerDAO needed is they needed a sort of council that votes on whether to increase or lower interest rates. So it's kind of planned. It's not a bottom-up emergent system in the economic sense. It's more of there is a small committee of planners which top-down plan the interest rates. And so this has very important economic, in a negative consequence, I would say. So there's a lot of decisions that follow once you decide whether to do the interest rate market-driven versus committee decided. So I think, that was the first iteration. And so the interest rate being market-driven was the real breakthrough from the Liquidity v2 protocol.
And then you've been on, obviously, a journey in terms of getting it ready for launch. You had a bit of a delay based on security reviews and audits, but it seems like everything seems to be running quite well now that it's live in production. So I guess that extra wait has been worthwhile, right? Rather than launching and discovering a problem. Can you tell us a little bit about the whole process of the launching? Did it take longer than you think? Was there more involved with the development than you expected? How did you come onto these security problems, and what advice can you give to people that are maybe also thinking about launching a BCH DeFi app?
Yeah, so that's a lot of different questions in one. But so to give a general overview, we had 2 smart contract audits, and so we were ramping up to launch back in December, but then there was still an issue that was found by one of the auditors in like follow-up investigation. And so, of course, we delayed the launch. And in some sense, our timing on that was good because since November, December, there's really been a breakthrough in how good these AI models are in security analysis. So we were able to, really leverage them fully, or like employ them to the fullest extent, and able to security test these protocols with the latest models. So we are sure, because you can do like 2 human audits, but with AI, it's so cheap to create an audit. We have done so many AI-powered audits that I don't even know the count, and often they flagged like false positives, but there were still things that we tweaked. That was mainly, I think, about the economic design. But so we're very confident because just the amount of audits that you're normally able to get is at most a handful. But now with AI, you can keep on, like, in some sense, it's fair, I think, to say intelligence has gotten so cheap for security analysis that you can really employ much more review and hence be much more certain about the security implications. Because beforehand, you would need a team of researchers to really try to poke holes in these complex protocols and complex smart contracts. But now that the bar has gotten down so much that it's much easier to find things yourself, but also we see just in DeFi that there's now a wave of exploits being found, because before the cost of finding the exploit was prohibitive, but now the cost of checking for exploits is so much lower. So in that sense, we're very glad that it's much better to take some extra time, realize what moment you are in, employ the new groundbreaking tools, and then launch when you're very sure that even the new model, the GPT-6 or the new Cloud Anthropic model, that it will still stand that test, because you just have ran so many security analyses that someone normally prompting as just a check will definitely not find something, because you can go way deeper if you also have the background knowledge and can steer the model. So I think that's definitely the winning combo. That's one thing we learned, is to have human-powered audits with AI. So we didn't expect that to be the story of the audits beforehand, because in the beginning of the audit process, there were just 2 human audits. We didn't even talk in depth about how the AI tools would be used. But it turned out, looking backwards, that turned out to be like a majorly important factor. And I think it will be going forward. Security analysis for code will involve AI point blank. I don't think you can compete without using these tools.
Is that an opportunity for BCH? Of course, we're always trying to look for ways to get ahead, and there's sort of a defensive version where we should obviously be doing good audits and so forth of projects that are launching on BCH to make sure that they're secure and we don't have as many. Some are going to be inevitable, that's just software, but we don't have as many big disasters or whatever goes on in Ethereum and so forth. But it seems more even not only a defensive opportunity, but an offensive one, which is that the BCH community could become experts in doing this kind of security analysis and thereby get traction in other communities that came to look for that, specifically around UTXO's development, but maybe even just in general. Like, it seems like a great time for somebody to launch a UTXO DeFi analysis and review company, right?
Yeah, agreed, because just the productivity you get with AI is just so much higher. Either you can compete on cost or on quality, but I think by either metric, if you really adopt these new tools, that you can outcompete people that are slow to adopt them. And as a more general idea or thing that comes to my mind is that not only are the smart contracts have a very high bar for security, but of course we have other things in the ecosystem like wallets, like full node software, maybe some of the libraries which power wallets. So there's a lot of surface area of important code, and all of them, for all of them you want good security. So there is also just the opportunity for, of course, we would prefer honest actors to find any issues and responsibly disclose them. So I think
you can't guarantee that.
You can't guarantee that. Yeah.
Is that a concern at all? Like, I think it was FFmpeg, essentially, like, freaked out publicly on Twitter because Google, I think, was making a bunch of like bug reports, being like, "Oh, we did these AI analysis and found these issues." And FFmpeg, as far as I understand, is just a volunteer thing. So they were like, "Listen, if you've got the time to make these bug reports, put in the fucking pull requests to fix them too." But they haven't had any of that. So there's a lot of hostility in the open source side. I'm wondering, is that something that you have had to deal with yet? Or is that a concern for a future?
Yeah, so with CashCrypt, because that's the main open source project. With CashCrypt, we have gotten some extra workload just because people can much more easily create PRs, and then you want to acknowledge, like you want to give some feedback, say, oh, maybe the idea is good or the idea is not good, and then check, is the code good, is the code not good? So there is definitely some extra work because the bar is lowered. And I think on the security aspect, we should hope that all projects would have continued maintenance. Of course, if things are not maintained, then that's a problem on its own. But if things are maintained, then my call for attention would be for developers to use these security analysis even for their library or their wallet or their full node. As long as it's security sensitive, to at least do a few of these runs, to potentially highlight. Because if the developer with these tools cannot easily find it with a few days of trying, then probably a normal person with these tools can also not find it. But if the developer hasn't tried, then it could be that this latest cloud model might trivially surface after a minute 10 or like half an hour of it spinning around, that it actually does surface some real issue. And you don't want that to be abused potentially. Because both for full nodes or for wallets or for libraries, that could have very bad implications. So my call would be for all the maintainers of open source software or otherwise security sensitive software to do some of these checks themselves, and to realize that that's kind of your attacker has these tools. So if you're thinking defensively, you definitely also want to run these checks, at least to the minimum extent that a non-technical person could also just say, oh, create 10 instances for half an hour, try every service to attack, and you don't give any specific instructions, but then at least you get maybe 10 agents to report back. And I think, so there's a few basic things you can do with prompting to increase the likelihood that something is found.
Yeah, and I mean, if you get ahead of it first, it also saves you from having to then go through a potential like AI, PR, and understand all that. Like,
I agree.
Because it's now to it.
It's so easy to generate text now. You can easily send someone a whole Bible's worth of text. But ain't nobody got time to read all that if a human didn't even put in the work to write it out. Right? So there's now a bit of a weird imbalance, whereas you would rather have something concise, like even just give me the prompt that you put into the LLM instead of giving the whole big report it wrote. Because then if you give a very big report, and I'll just give the report to my LLM to summarize it or something. So that's silly to give too much text.
Okay, so that's the security analysis part. Was there anything else maybe that didn't, result in like the publicly visible audits or delays? Anything else in the programming, the launching? I don't know, maybe in the marketing, you had to change the name. Maybe you can explain a little bit about what was that about and what was the process and lessons learned there?
Yeah, so indeed we rebranded. The new name is ParyonUSD, and we're very happy with it. We weren't fully aware of this beforehand, but so now we have our own name that doesn't have any name confusion. So it's and also this puts us in a good position so we can use it for any future products without because we fully own the name. But of course we wanted to do a rollout properly, so have it rebranded everywhere, and so we needed to create some timelines for that. Also update any text or graphics. So of course that's a bit of a process, and then do the announcement for that. So definitely the rebrand was one part of the extra time we got, and then also because we got some extra time, we could do some more I would say a launch readiness, or maybe like a hardening of some of the aspects. I think we mentioned it in one of our launch blog posts also, but we, for example, now have a full monitoring and alerting system. Like if you will sometimes see this on software development Twitter or X, where they have these green and red bars to monitor for uptime. And so, you want as many 9s as possible, or like a 100% uptime would be ideal. So now, we have internal things like this and alerting when something might be wrong or needs. You automatically get a notification. So we're very happy to have all these types of systems set up, which you want for a launch. Otherwise, you because if you're awake or you're not monitoring closely on the weekend or something, you still want to be alerted as soon as possible. So these are some of the internal things we built. Also, we initially we relied on some of the public infrastructure, for example, for chain graph. And public, while it is awesome that you can rely on public instances of like infrastructure, we in-housed all of our BCH related infrastructure, and we can I think in the BLISS talks will have a little more details about that, but so that's also the extra time we took. That's what I mean by hardening, is that when you control the full infrastructure, then at least when there is something wrong, you can fix it because you own it. You don't need to message someone else who you're not even paying and saying, oh, can you fix this or this? Or, oh, I'm having problems with. So I think it's much better. And also for serious businesses, I would say it's just encouraged to run your own infrastructure for mainnet.
And so now you have launched, and like I said, there's been no big disaster yet, which
No.
I'm always on your mind. You know, it's always like no news is good news when it comes to launches, right? Because I'm such an optimistic person in general, but I just know from experience, product releases and software, like it's actually the opposite. You're kind of desperately trying to avoid a bad situation more than you are being excited about, a thrilling new thing. No surprises is good news when it comes to software development. So talk to us about the actual launch. Were you nervous when it was happening? And in hindsight, how do you feel about the initial rollout, the initial reception?
So if I can answer them in reverse, so we are super happy with the initial reception. We still want to get more people to try it out, because I think we have built something very impressive also with the UX and with the new things it enables users to do. So it's we believe we have built a very useful product for BCH users. So one thing is to get even more people to try it out, but we're very happy with, I think you can see it on the dashboard, that over 70 loans are active and over 110 loans have been created. So there's also some people just experimenting with borrowing and maybe then immediately repaying or just seeing how the flow works. We haven't gotten very positive feedback. So on that side, the launch all went smoothly. Also, it was only growing. So that's super nice to see. And we hit our target. So my day one target was to have 30 loans created, and we that was our internal goal. So I was very happy to see that we reached that, and then to see it continuous growth to the next days, because your day one users, of course, they probably are the most excited. So you want their experience to be very good, right? You don't want them to be have any kind of trouble using your system. But for most people, they kind of want to wait and see, right? You don't have to be a day one user. If you're a day 10 user, it will work just as well, or even better, because there would have been the first fixes and improvements. So there's definitely no rush for users to be first, but still we appreciate the users who on day one want to give their feedback and want to test. We did see, of course, users test it out first with a loan of the minimum size and then get more comfortable with the UI. So that was cool to see that, because we were, of course, live monitoring these dashboards also. And then leading up to the launch, the few days before, I was not nervous. Even the day itself, when I woke up, I was not nervous. But then an hour beforehand, the nerves suddenly kicked in, and there's nothing I could do about it. So of course we were as good prepared as I know how to. So I would say our preparation really went the extra mile on all extents. Also the smart contracts that we talked about, and so it went very well. So there were, as you said, no major issues at all. There was a small issue that was totally outside of our control, but it's still a good story, I think. So you might have heard about the CVE in Linux, something with copy. I don't remember the full details, but so there was a critical vulnerability in Linux itself. So if you host servers or run VPSs, then then you should upgrade. So our cloud provider decided to upgrade our system for us, which means, of course, your server shuts down and then it restarts. But all processes which are running then should also restart. So in that sense, our launch day was exactly the day that this Linux critical vulnerability happened and required all servers to restart. So I think our uptime monitoring already had like 10 minutes or something where this restart was taking place. But that was the only thing that happened. And that also didn't cause the website to go down or the tab, but it did. There was some small functionality for what it does matter. So that's the one thing that did surface on launch day. You can never be fully prepared, I guess.
That's right. You never can. Nothing tests software like the real world. It's not AI, not internal testing, not test suites with 100% coverage. No, that's not how it works. The real world always has a way of turning up something. But nevertheless, it's gone really well. You have a very impressive TVL for just a newly launched project. Can you explain a little bit about that? Like, what is your plan to grow the TVL? Is it mostly just sort of not a coincidence exactly, but did you have a strong plan with people, to initially test it and provide liquidity, or have you just kind of let it happen, how the market responds? Talk to me about that.
So our launch day was on April 30th. So you can see that this graph started somewhat earlier. So we did have like an initial liquidity provision before we fully opened it. So just a few days before we opened it publicly. So that's one thing we did too. So that from that bar, you can kind of guesstimate what see the initial coordination we did to have some liquidity on launch day. Then our plans to grow it long term. We have many ideas. And indeed, for a stablecoin, one of the most important things is that a whale will ask, like, how much value can I actually convert to this without maybe having to do a loan or something? I just want to convert my BCH. Maybe I think the price will be going down for a period, so I want to hedge and have in a dollar stable asset. So we do think liquidity is super important, or like the circulating supply is very important. In some sense, the TVL metric is less important for people who want to use the stablecoin than the amount circulating. So here, it went up to 450 ParyonUSD in circulation. And so I think we a nice round number would be 1 million as a target for I won't name any dates, but like as a next target, that would be definitely a milestone. And go ahead.
I guess I'm just trying to get a sense of, like you said, I'm sure you would have had some initial plans to kick things off, but then just the same as with the testing, you never know until you put it out there in the real world. So, like, do you feel you have a good sense, not only from the numbers of the TVL of the protocol itself, but also like your response on social media or feedback that you're getting from users or information, from whales or behind the scenes? You have a good sense of how much it's going to grow, or do you wake up every day and just see what's the TVL today? Wow, like I wasn't expecting that much traction.
Well, it was the first few days. It was really just checking the TVL ourselves and seeing the results. A few things we did know in advance. So of course, ParyonUSD is not integrated everywhere yet. So while it is immediately useful as a stable currency, we expected that the first people who would use it would probably do staking. So both staking in the ParyonUSD stability pool, but then also staking on Cauldron. So to create a pool, AMM DEX with both assets, so both the BCH and the PUSD. And we did see that, I think, both of these staking methods combined are over 60% or something. I don't know the exact numbers, but over 60% of all the ParyonUSD is locked in these two staking methods. And then one thing that was also clear from initial users is that there was quite a lot of demand for leveraging up on their BCH, because you cannot buy things directly. Currently, there's no token-to-token pairs, so you cannot buy many things with ParyonUSD. So what people want to do is they start with BCH, create a loan, they get a ParyonUSD, but then get BCH back so they can they lever up. And so the first thing quite a few users did, well, of course it's totally valid, is to create a loan, get the ParyonUSD, go to the Cauldron DEX and sell it there. So there was already some selling pressure, but then other people saw this and started buying on Cauldron. So there was a lot of Cauldron activity. With I think you can see this by the amount of trades and by the APY. At some point I saw that it said if this continues, there's 90% APY or something. I don't know how they calculated, but I thought that was funny because it's such a high number, and I think it's because of the high volume. That's at least my understanding. So that we see a lot of people do is to borrow, then use it at Cauldron. So really the Cauldron integration, I think, turned out to be one of the important factors of the first week or 10 days of the protocol being live, that people could actually trade it on the DEX, and that integration was nice. Also, when there was like a bug or something in the chart of Cauldron, people immediately noticed and started posting in the group, like, oh, this is weird. It posted at midnight or something. The price was $600, but it was like a weird data bug. But people were monitoring the chart very carefully because, of course, it's always in a tight band when it's being arbitraged around $1. But except for so people were looking at that a lot.
Amazing. And congratulations, because you have hit number one on Cauldron. I believe maybe just today. I don't think I checked yesterday, but a couple of days ago, it definitely wasn't. So you are now number one. And shout out to Fiendish, who said on the Christmas episode, that was one of his predictions, if I remember right, that Paryon would flip MUSD to hit number one on Cauldron. And I was actually a little skeptical at the time, because the initial boost can be good, but also if a project has been out for quite a while, it can take a second entrant in the market to gain a little bit of relative traction. But you've rocketed up the leaderboard there. What are your plans for continuing the momentum of the strong launch? Like you mentioned, integrations. Is it going to be doing more of that? Is it going to be trying to get capital from big whales? Is it maybe going to be going to more conferences or getting out there somewhere else in the scene? What's the game plan for growing Paryon from here?
I think that the initial thing that's on our mind now with the feedback is, of course, we want to address the feedback, right? So we now have a lot of user input where before you launch, it's only the team, and if you looked at it for so long, maybe you cannot see the flaws in it anymore. So we're very happily taking and noting all feedback and making those improvements. So some things we already have gotten to, the low-hanging fruit. Some things are for the next weeks. And for example, a thing that's been already requested by multiple users who want to do more of the APY comparisons is they want to see very detailed how much they are earning, for example, per day, and see like charts of this and APY estimates, and then maybe, why are you estimating in this way? I want multiple ways to look at either historical trends or just based on the current loans or something. So there's multiple ways to do the APY. So I think one thing is just representing what kind of the staking yield is, and then and then because there's a yield on this, it becomes an enticing product. And I think we can currently do better communicating clearly to investors what kind of the payouts and the yields and all these more financial aspects are. So that's mainly for the people who want to maybe buy ParyonUSD or something on Cauldron and then stake it, or maybe you just want to create a loan at an interest rate but earn a higher interest rate staking. So then they start with BCH. They don't have to sell, so they still have access to the BCH. But then in addition, they also have the ParyonUSD and the yield. So there's a few ways you can actually earn the yield. So that's also something that we need to explain to users. We have a product that's not trivial to understand. Because you have the borrowing, you have the staking, you have the redemption. So there's three aspects which we have color-coded and each given their own logo. So quite a lot of effort went into making it understandable and digestible on that layer. Also in the UI, you have these 3 actions: borrow, stake, redeem. And you can also see if you have any loans or any stakes or any redemptions ongoing. You will see that also clearly in the UI. So so that's for the data representation. But then people have questions. Okay, now I know how the UI works and I know what this product does, but how can I use this for a financial strategy? Like, how can I, for example, borrow and then stake? Or would I sell my BCH on Calderon to buy BUSD and then stake that? So there's a few of these strategies, economic strategies, that we want to communicate better and maybe do write-ups or guides about. So that's mainly about the staking. But then there's also people who just want the stability, and so they might wonder, how do I just what is the best way to convert from BCH to ParyonUSD? And so we'll also make guides about that, whether Calderon is the best, or what the slippage is, or how they can structure it. And you definitely want things to grow on both sides. So if you only have people who borrow, they kind of bring a lot of ParyonUSD in circulation. And then the whole mechanism is to design. I think we will have a visual of this later. But
let's put this up so you can walk us through it. This is actually very helpful that you put there, trying to explain how exactly the stabilizing works with these feedback loops. But even myself, looking at it for quite a while, I still felt a little bit overwhelmed by it. So perhaps you can break it down.
Yeah. So what this is specifically explaining is, why would the stablecoin be worth? Why would this cash token, this specific cash token, why would it be worth $1? When we know that all things are volatile against each other, right? So the dollar is volatile against the yen or the British pound. So why is this token pegged to the dollar? And so if we take trusted stablecoins, centralized stablecoins, the easy explanation is they're redeemable for $1 in the bank. So the crucial aspect of, for example, why a Tether or a USDC is some parties can redeem this token for $1 in the bank. And because they can redeem it for $1 in the bank, they value it and arbitrage it to $1. So this redemption aspect is crucial. And so ParyonUSD is a decentralized stablecoin, so it's collateralized by Bitcoin Cash, by BCH, but it's also redeemable. So if you redeem, what do you get? You get $1 worth of BCH. So you still get the underlying assets, but it's not a traditional finance integration, but instead it's the native currency of the blockchain. So you get $1 worth of BCH back. And so the interest rates and the redemption, they both govern this process. They help govern this process. And to explain this, I think it's handy to start from a case where many people want to borrow ParyonUSD first. So if there's many borrowers, they bring more ParyonUSD, PUSD in circulation. And so you have a lot of, in economics, you have a lot of supply, but the demand stays constant. And so this would put a pressure, if you in economics terms, would put a downward pressure on the price, so that you expect the price to decrease. But of course, it's a stable coin, so you need to think about how do these supply and demand mechanisms on the markets, how do they correct that themselves. So in the case where you have a lot of borrowing and a lot of extra PUSD in circulation, ideally the demand also grows. So that's the stable way to grow it. You grow both sides. You grow the PUSD in circulation, but you also grow the demand side. So that's the sustainable way to grow it. But of course, it's markets, and people may buy or sell whenever they want. So for example, if someone decides to, we can follow this graph. So if we say there's a lot extra supply, so then the price decreases, so we would be in the bottom half of the chart. We would going below $1. And then certain mechanisms kick in. So again, a lot of borrowing happens, a lot of ParyonUSD is brought into circulation, the price goes below $1. What do people do? Oh, they see the price goes below $1. Well, now I have the redemption mechanism. I can actually go to the contracts and say, I have this ParyonUSD that I've bought for, let's say, 95 cents, and I want $1 worth of BCH. So that would be an easy arbitrage, an easy way to make the 5 cents difference, make it back. So you will have people who automate this. So that would be the first thing that happens, is people start automating this. and you have redemptions. And the redemption immediately repays a loan. So it immediately, on the technical level, it sends ParyonUSD to an op return. So some tokens are burned and taken out of the circulating supply. So immediately this kind of puts pressure back to $1 because you first had too much supply, but now you're shrinking the supply again. So that's one loop that corrects itself. But not only do you have a redemption, this redemption also signals to all other loans, oh, there's actually a risk here. You can get redeemed. So what do all other loans do in reaction? So this is optional. They don't have to do it, but we can already see today from even being 10 days operational that this is in fact what happened. Once we turned on the redemptions, some redemptions were created against 0% loans, and people started raising their interest rates. So if you follow the graphic, the chart, there have been redemptions, there's a higher redemption risk, and then people start raising their interest rates. Okay, so what does higher interest rate mean? It has two effects. So the arrow splits in two, and maybe that's also why it takes a few steps to follow. There are multiple effects. So of course, if there's a higher interest rate, for the next guy, this means it's just more expensive to borrow. So less supply will come into circulation just because they think, oh, I wanted to borrow maybe at 2%, but now I see the going rate is, 4%, so I prefer not to borrow yet or something. So that's one effect of the higher interest rate. But more importantly is that immediately, once people start paying higher interest rates, the pool is earning higher APY. So everyone is saying, oh, this pool, maybe it earns 7% APY, but now it's earning 9% APY. So actually, I want to stake more. And so it's increasing demand. And so if you again think about the demand and supply side, you kind of lower the supply again and you boost demand. So you do kind of everything to push the price back to $1. And so this is the economic system, the economic mechanism on the downward side. So we discussed the lower loop. But if you think about it, the same logic can be applied on the loop at the top.
Yeah, it's just the same thing in reverse. Okay.
Yes.
And like you said, you've already got some initial data that this is working. Can you give us any, I'm sure some of it would be available on the stats dashboard, but can you give us any indication of that? Like, what did you see? The price went below $1 to 99 or 98 cents, and then you immediately saw a spike in redemptions. What happened?
Yeah. So one more thing on top of this chart is, of course, once you have a solid economic system, you also just have expectations, right? And so for stablecoins, if you call it a stablecoin and it trades at $1 for a while, people expect it to be worth $1. So just some people will buy it and think it will go back to $1, even like there's in all the stable coins, just because of expectations. If there's an expectation it will go to $1, that expectation already itself strengthens the peg. But of course, as a new stable coin, you cannot rely just on expectations, because if you would start marketing like, oh, this is worth $5, then would it suddenly be worth $5? No, of course not. So expectations are only worth, only go to a certain extent. And to tie this into the price data, so we have just seen people buying on Cauldron. If they see, oh, it goes a little below $1, I will already buy, because we enabled the redemptions, I think, on day 7. So people before then, they couldn't immediately do this loop. They knew, oh, if you wait 2 days, then I can create a redemption. And presumably that's what some did, right? If you buy it 96 cents or something, and then you can redeem for $1, then you just had to wait a couple days. So I think that those are the two mechanisms we already saw. We saw people waiting for the redemptions to activate and to then create the redemptions. And we also saw the expectations. People say, oh yeah, we have some understanding of the system and how the redemptions and how it will go back to $1. So I just buy now and sell when it's back at $1. I don't even have to use any redemptions. I just trade the volatility of the small volatility. But of course, if it's below $1, there is some volatility.
And when it comes to the staking, can you explain that part? Because I understand that if you put your cash, you put your ParyonUSD and your BCH into a liquidity pool on Cauldron, then you're earning money on the swap fees that people who are swapping from PUSD to BCH or back are paying a small fee, and that's going to the stakers. What about the staking pool for the sort of native staking?
Yeah. So to add one more thing to that explanation is these two ways of staking, they will probably have different APYs, right? Even when the market matures, just because they have different risks. For example, when you stake in Cauldron, you need both assets because you're creating a pool. And that's already one difference. So when you stake in the native ParyonUSD stability pool, you only need BUSD, right? So you only need you don't need any BCH to stake. Also, when you stake in an AMM DEX, you have a risk of impermanent loss. This is just the price ends up being different. So your pool, what balance it has of the two assets, it shifts over time, and so this can have economic impact. So you may not prefer to have more of the one asset than you had before and less of the other assets. That's the risk with AMM DEXs. And so then now to properly explain the stability pool. In the stability pool, what it does is it creates liquidations. So we talked a lot already about redemptions. But the second important factor in this whole decentralized stablecoin is liquidation. So if someone creates a loan, they over-collateralize with BCH, but it's important that it's always over-collateralized. So at some point, if the BCH price is volatile, then there would otherwise be a scenario where the underlying BCH couldn't cover if there's a price drop in the BCH dollar price, that the underlying BCH wouldn't be worth enough to cover the debts. So of course the system wants to avoid that. So the liquid EV2 protocol, it says, when you go below a threshold, you're automatically instant liquidated, but there has to be some funds available to process this liquidation. And so that's the stability pool. So it's called stability pool also because it does this, right? It guarantees the stability of the whole system, the working by liquidating bad loans which go below which are not properly over-collateralized.
So do you put PUSD or BCH into the stability pool? It sounds like you put BCH into the stability pool.
So if you think about what a liquidation is there is PUSD debt. So the loan has debt because the PUSD is in circulation. So the corresponding is debt, but it holds BCH assets. So if you're liquidating, you can take the BCH assets, but you have to repay the debt. So you need PUSD. So one step back, the stability pool, it only holds ParyonUSD to start with. And then it liquidates, so it spends ParyonUSD to repay a loan's debt, which is about to become a bad loan. And then you take the collateral, the stability pool takes the collateral, so it ends up with BCH. So then it holds both BCH and ParyonUSD, but only converts one way. So it only spends PUSD, the stable coin, and earns BCH. So if you have payouts, APY, that is in BCH terms, because the interests are paid in BCH and any liquidations are also in BCH. And
right. So where do people make an APY on the pool then?
So the APY comes from the interest payments. 70% of the interest payments paid by the borrowers is paid to the pool. And so here in this, I think we have diagrams still up. And so the higher interest rates paid by the borrowers are paid to the pool. So that's why a higher interest rate becomes a higher yield for the stability pool, because it's just directly paid. 70% of all interest go to the stability pool.
And then people can make that money if they pull their stake out of the stability pool. They also, just like an LP on a DEX, right? Yeah. They get their share of those interest rates.
Yeah, so you don't even need to unstake. So we have a system we call it epochs. So that's just the equivalent of 10 days, but it's measured in blocks. So every 10 days there's a payout by the stability pool, and this payout you need to claim it. So let's say you have staked for 1 month. Let's say 4 weeks. Then you will have 4, but it counts in 10 days. So there would be 3 payouts because of 30 days. So there would be 3 payouts waiting for you to claim. And these are BCH payouts. So you earn your APY in BCH, and you would see them, of course, in the UI. So it would be very, very easy to claim. But so they're not automatically going to your wallet. And we have some ideas. So that's, if you ask what's on the roadmap, we have some ideas for how to further improve that. But so currently, every 10 days, all stakers will be able to claim or get their BCH payouts. And the risk, because I mentioned the risk on the impermanent loss side for Cauldron, but the risk here is you put in ParyonUSD. So let's say you have 10,000 ParyonUSD, but some portion, like the stability pool, spends 10% of its funds on liquidations. So then 10% of the ParyonUSD in the pool is converted to BCH. So you receive your normal interest payments in BCH, but if you want to withdraw afterwards, you would only be able to not withdraw 10,000, but 5% less. So you would have, the same percentage that I just said. You would the same amount of funds that the stability pool spent, the same percentage you would be reduced by, but you get compensated by BCH. So you don't lose in dollar terms, but you are converting assets. So that's the risk. If there's a lot of stability, a lot of liquidations by the stability pool, you get converted from your stable assets to partially BCH. And so you get a mix back. You get mostly your staked assets, but then the compensating liquidation BCH. Did I do a good job here?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
I'm still slightly, because there's still some, because if the BCH price is crashing, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, there's been a lot of liquidations, then at the time that you come back, you're trying to redeem your 10,000, and let's say you get back 9,000, and then you would get back some BCH as well. But the BCH wouldn't necessarily still be also worth 1,000 PUSD because the BCH price has gone down. Right. Okay.
Yeah, you put the risk well. So you would have volatility risk on the BCH. So it kind of depends. Did the liquidation happen at the bottom of the candle or at the top of the candle? Right. So if you have a downward candle, if it happens in the beginning and it crashes further, then you would take on that volatility risk. So you actually took the bad BCH price. But if it happens at the bottom of the candle, so which sometimes often happens with liquidations, is there at the very bottom, then you would likely have upside afterwards or something. Yeah. So you take on volatility risk.
And that also depends a little bit on not only when the liquidation happens, but when you notice. Obviously, the time the liquidation happens is when it happens, but you're not paying attention to your PUSD. You're asleep. You check in a week, and then you're kind of like, oh, wow, the price is pumped or it's fallen or whatever. I thought I was in PUSD, but I'm not. I was in BCH for some of it.
Yeah, that's the risk. So it's not, so important for me to say it's not a savings account in that it's risk-free. It's not risk-free. So it also has a better APY just because you're taking on risk. But for some people, they understand that this is the risk they're taking, and they understand that how much they expect to be processed in liquidations and how big this volatility risk is. So if the APY more than compensates this risk, then it's a good deal. So this whole stability pool and the redemption mechanism. So the things I spend a lot of time talking about are also the important things that are different from Moria. So you asked earlier what's different. So these are a complex mechanisms, but so they're different. And so this is how it works in ParyonUSD.
And you said 70% of the interest payments, which comes from people taking out the loans to get parity in the first place, are going to the stability pool. Where's the other 30% go? Is that how you make money?
Yeah, it's going to the team. So it's the protocol fee. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Excellent. And between all of this, it sounds like there's a lot of transactions happening. You have to do the parity to take out a parity loan. You have to make a transaction. In order to do a redemption, you have to make a transaction. In order to put it into the stability pool, you have to do a transaction. In order to do a liquidation, there's transactions. In order to pick up your funds after the liquidation, there's presumably a transaction in there. And that's all just system transactions, let alone people, I need to pay you, so I'm going to pay you some parity USD or ParyonUSD, right? So that's like a lot of transactions.
Yeah, the goal is definitely that you can see it in the transaction count. So one of the things people immediately noticed, it was Bitcoin Cash Artist, so he's also monitoring every transaction on the blockchain maybe. But so he noticed that there was a contract making regular transactions each 10-minute interval. And so we have a price contract, of course, which needs to inform the other contracts of what the current price is. And it uses the general protocols Oracle for these signed price messages. And so, but it makes a transaction every 10 minutes. And we don't have one UTXO on that address. So it's not like a bottleneck, but we have multiple 5 UTXOs deployed on that address. So every 10 minutes, you will see 5 transactions, keeping the price in synchronized of what the Oracle messages that are being produced. So just from that alone, you already have like a steady heartbeat. And then there's all these other system transactions that you just described.
That's amazing. I'm really interested to see how that plays out. And it's something that the BCH community needs to do a better job of, honestly, which is that for the last several years, despite BCH improving on a lot of fronts, right? We've improved tons in terms of our promotion, in terms of our protocol, in terms of the tooling, in terms of the wallets, now in terms of the DeFi, like everything is getting better. But so far, we still haven't seen a large sustainable uptick on the actual blockchain in result of all of this work. But now that people are getting around to delivering these more advanced apps, the more that grows, the more it will flow through to transactions, right? That's the concept.
Agreed.
Yeah. And I'm very glad to see this, because I don't think we could go another, couple of years just being like, it's coming. It's like, when is it coming? But
I agree.
This is surely when we're going to.
And also one extra thing is that we can already see on many of these more mature DeFi ecosystems is it opens so much automated trading, right? So you have these arbitrage opportunities that will be automated, but once you have more than 2 DEXs, or these DEXs can be automated, or once you have more than one stable coin, right? So you have 2 stable coins, you can start arbitraging between those 2. So just the fact of the economic arbitrage, the automated trading, I think it just needs to cover the transaction fee for it to be economical, right? So as soon as there is a difference between 2 prices somewhere, and there's an automated bot watching, as soon as it can cover the transaction fee, it will make the trade, even if it's to make like a half of a cent or something. Yeah,
it should be really nice to see the transaction volume growing over time. And that was actually one of the interesting things that I also noticed, like you mentioned, that when Paryon was listed, it also built up more volume on Cauldron, not just for Paryon, but for other pairs as well too, because people went to Cauldron to trade it and see it there and so forth. And then they thought, oh, well, maybe I'll also just buy some of this other token, attention breeds activity, right? So it's actually really cool to see the network effect of BCH projects starting to kick in like that. And it's going to be easier and easier for people who are launching a BCH DeFi project this year or next year. They're going to have more and more of that infrastructure all the time. So maybe you can give me an update on where you're feeling about that, but also just about the infrastructure. I know you've done the work with Paryon, with Selene. We've made some tweaks and updates so that would work smoothly. You've been rolling out upgrades to Cashinize. We now have the ecosystem starting to switch over to like Wizard Connect instead of Wallet Connect. There's tons of work going on there, and Paryon is driving part of that. Wondering if you could speak to some of that work.
Yeah. So definitely you want your wallets to be compatible with your dApp. And so currently all Cash Tokens wallets also have a way to connect. And that might not always be true. So if we expand the number of wallets which have Cash Tokens, then there might be difference. But so for now, all wallets also have a way to do Wallet Connect. So we definitely supported Wallet Connect, and then Wizard Connect came up. And the big improvement from Wizard Connect is that it supports HD wallets in a better way. So Wallet Connect, the way it's designed by PAT specification, is you connect a single address, which made the specification much easier and had some advantages. But of course, if all the important wallets were HD wallets, with the exception originally of Cashinize, which originally only was single address, but now also has HD wallet support. But then suddenly users need to know on which funds they have on which address. And so the user experience becomes that they often have to send first to themselves just to have it all on one address, and then only then connect that address to a dApp and then have it show up. So yeah, we're very glad that when we launched, that there was Wallet Connect generally available, and then if you click the Paytaka wallet, that it had maybe it needs one of the slides. It had a Wizard Connect Wizard Connect also has a connection method. And then the wallet testing, so we tested this integration with the different wallets. For now, we have written up a full compatibility page, and I need to give a shout out to Richard on our team, who will be speaking at BLISS, as I mentioned. So Richard did a lot of wallet testing, and he wrote up this whole compatibility page and reached out to the multiple wallet developers. And so we found that currently the best experience is with Cashnize and Paytaka, but you can use other wallets as well. But then we have written up what quirks you might still encounter, and then so we're working to resolve this. So hopefully this is work that if you're launching later, this ecosystem will have figured out all the small quirks and things like this. But so for users, it's just handy to see, read something before they start, so they can have an informed opinion on the different wallets. And one interesting aspect about this is because I created Cashnize, so we were able to tune Cashnize to work as well as possible, so really fine-tune it to work with the DApp and handle any edge cases that we might notice and handle all the wallet connect quirks and things like it. But of course, if you have one wallet, not everyone will switch to the one wallet. So you want your users on all wallets to be able to have a good user experience, or at least all wallets which have some way to connect, because we didn't want to have a built-in web wallet. We want to kind of break that standard and move beyond that, because then you're just sending funds to our website, and you shouldn't necessarily trust all DApp websites to handle your funds. Whereas with Wallet Connect and Wizard Connect, you get an explicit pop-up on your wallet you already trust, and you can review it. So none of the actions you do on the DApp can ever spend your funds. The thing it will do, it will request something to your wallet, and then you can take your time to review it. So you should never be worried that clicking a button will spend your money somehow. The most it can do is give you a notification on your phone or on your second browser tab with where your wallet is, and that will ask you, we got a signing request or a transaction request. Can you review this? And then either confirm or cancel the procedure. I like this flow, because then it's clear what permissions the DApp has versus the wallet. Never, if you click any button, will a transaction be created from your wallet or something. It will always be in your wallet that you approve this. We're happy with that flow, but still need to work out the last quirks on the compatibility.
Yeah, no, I think it's just great. It's so great to see, because the evolution of Wallet Connect and now moving on to Wizard Connect, and now Paryon has really set a new standard in how slick and easy to use BCH apps should be. And hopefully we're going to see more about that at BLISS with the XO templates and so forth. That seems to me like that's going to be the story of 2026 potentially for BCH, is the whole ecosystem leveling up. Like maybe 2023 was like, well, we could add more DeFi stuff. 2024, 2025, some of those pieces started to emerge. And then 2026 is going to be like, we're going to make everything start to be really slick. It just takes time to get that infrastructure, to get everything working well. And then 2027 will be like the future will start arriving, like, we're going to have quantum protection on everything. We're going to have more advanced privacy coins. We're going to have DeFi protocols building on each other. Like stable coins are such a building block for other different tools that people 100%. Want to make, right? So that's kind of where I see things going. So I'm just thrilled to see Paryon contributing to and accelerating that process, honestly, because like, for instance, we've benefited at Selene from you guys writing PRs in to fix things and or giving us tips like, can you change this? Can you tweak this? And that's just growth in the ecosystem. It's amazing to see.
Yeah, so thank you for saying we raised the bar. That's really music. I will forward the compliment to the team because a lot of hard work went into it. So thanks for appreciating it. Love to hear it. And so it is work that has to happen to get to a mature ecosystem. And also we are happy to put in the extra work to get cash tokens more broadly adopted, and to for example, as you said, it's a building block for the rest of the DeFi ecosystem. So we would be very happy to work with more and more people to integrate this, be it a stablecoin mode like in Selene, or some other way to integrate it in, for example, another market to have a token-to-token pairs, or some other way where it would be handy to have a stable currency for DeFi use. So yeah, that UX really is on our minds to get it very good in the dApp, but also in the wider ecosystem integrations.
And I guess it sort of remains to be seen. So I'm not expecting you to know specifically, but do you have any predictions as to how it will play out in terms of the Parion? I keep going there.
Yeah, no worries.
Do you? My brain will click over eventually. But
you need to hear it a few more after the talks
right.
and the BLISS conference.
Exactly. I spent 6 months hyping it up as ParyonUSD. But in terms of like, are you expecting it more to be used for person to person? Like, are you expecting to see sort of merchant adoption starting to be quite keen to demand ParyonUSD? Are you thinking it might be used more in the staking and DeFi stuff? Do you have a specific niche that you're targeting there, or even cross-chain swaps, maybe some integration with another chain that could either use Paryon or could swap it with their own stablecoin? Do you have a particular direction you're planning to head in?
Yeah, so we do. So I think it will be mainly the currency of BCH DeFi, and so to power integrations with for example, other borrowing and lending or prediction markets or other things where you want like a different currency that is stable in value. And also token to token pairs would be so valuable because that would be general technology that we can leverage, but then other token pairs can also leverage it, so it would not be fully custom. And the DeFi side, and of course includes the staking. Staking is such an important APY aspect. People can earn on their BCH because there's just a lot of whales who have this idle capital that's not doing really anything useful. Like, of course, they have it on demand. So the use is that they have high liquidity. They can always sell it and always use it. But if they know, like, I'm not touching that stack for another year, it's my cold storage or whatever, like there's plenty of that. And then it's capital that is not actively doing anything economical. And I think activating at least part of this capital that could be locked up for a staking period and considerate of some of the risks, I think they would be very happy to earn these APY, earn some yields. So I think that those are two things that we should really focus on. And as a final thing, just to grow the protocol in tandem, both sides, so to not focus only on getting as much supply in circulation in a quick time, because that can put things out of balance, and also not only focus on increasing demand, because the supply will follow, but it's better if it's thought about, or you of course cannot plan these things exactly, but you can guide them and say, for example, hey community, it would be good to get some more arbitrage going, or we noticed that actually the price has been, I don't know, often above $1, so now it's actually quite cheap to borrow, and things like this, communication and encouragement, but also for the capital we have access to, we can for sure make sure that the growth curve is quite smooth. So those are the things that are on my mind for the future.
And do you have any plans for, this is something that I'm just so excited to see, the ecosystem hasn't got there yet, but we only kind of need to get over this hurdle one time. Now that you have everything set up with Paryon and you're able to test it and see that it's working, do you have plans to do Paryon Euro, Paryon Tesla, Paryon Gold, Paryon BTC, Paryon any other ticket, NASDAQ? What's the potential for that to happen?
So we definitely don't want to rush into anything else. So we also have not announced to be doing anything else. We first want to do one thing and do it well. And the US dollar markets have such deep liquidity and high demand for US dollar stability that I think we are orders of magnitude away from, it would almost be a distraction to try to focus too early on, for example, tokenizing stocks or something like this, because it's not exactly the same, and then you also have only one stock. So then if you want to think about stocks, you would probably want to take the framing of to tokenize the whole Nasdaq or something. You want to take a little wider framing, because once you tokenize the Tesla stock, then people will ask, oh, why not the upcoming SpaceX stock, or the the Amazon stock, or the Google stock. So I totally get why there's clearly user demand for more assets, but for our team capacity, I think we will focus first on getting deep US dollar liquidity and focus on the USD market.
All right. Okay. I feel like that's a bit of a shame. I would just, like you said, I'm just so excited for BCH apps because even just we're in the age now of everyone with their like Robinhood app and stuff. Like anybody under the age of 40 probably doesn't think about buying stocks or investing in finance or anything as like going to their web browser and logging on to you used to have these like brokerage accounts with terrible UIs and stuff like that. And that still exists, and older people, I'm sure, are still using them and stuff. But when I am out and about talking to people about cryptocurrency and stuff, to the extent that cryptocurrency is an investment for them, that's kind of how they see it, as being, more like they might be dabbling in some stocks or some real estate trusts or something. And then maybe they have a little bit of crypto. And so the more that BCH can facilitate that, and you can show them, look, we have all this stuff as well, but also with the benefits of cryptocurrency directly integrated into it. I think for at least for a certain segment of the population, that's going to be a really powerful pitch. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. But of course, one step at a time. Got to get everything working smoothly.
It's just the fact that there's many ideas to go around. So also, I think other people or teams were thinking about. So it will be interesting. Maybe one team launches a gold-backed asset, and another team launches a stock, a synthetic stock, and another team wants a euro integration or something. So I think there's definitely a room for innovation. But to couple it back to what I was saying earlier, to leave testnet and to go to mainnet, I think it's not actually real and useful to people. But the usefulness really depends on how much is in circulation and how deep the liquidity is. So of course you don't want to cash out $100,000 in a BCH trade to fiat or to some stable coin, and then notice that the liquidity in Cauldron would give you huge slippage or something. So what we want to focus on is really being able to offer solutions to this, that you don't need to have to think, oh, do I get USDC on Ethereum or something, or do I use Tether on Ethereum? No, that you can use a BCH native asset, but we need the liquidity, because otherwise people will still go to another chain or something. They would rather do, I think, the bridging and to have proper liquidity if we don't have the deep market. So I think our main focus, as for BCH DeFi as a whole, should really be to ramp up our liquidity and TVL, because if you go to DeFi Llama and you compare to other chains, we have a lot to catch up on that front.
Any final comments on ParyonUSD before we hit another couple things quickly?
I want users. So maybe I said it in that sentence, but I would like people to give it a spin. At least just connect their wallet, have a few clicks around, see what they like, what they don't like. We're very receptive to feedback. We try to fix things or improve things if anything is unclear. Of course, the system has a bit of complexity to it. So you might need to take a few minutes to click around and to understand the different actions you can actually do in the dApp. For example, one thing that's already being requested quite a bit is people want to sometimes just buy PUSD. So we will add a Cauldron button somewhere or some kind of integration. So that's definitely something we will do and we know is outstanding. And then if I can refer people to anything, it's either come to BLISS or if you don't have a ticket, watch the live stream. I'm sure there will be interesting talks there. So those are the two main things that are on my mind for listeners. I would refer them to give it for a spin.
Yeah, good segue, because I wanted to just touch on BLISS a little bit. Obviously, I'm looking forward to seeing everyone there. And like I said, forgive me if I get your name wrong or I don't recognize you or something, but it's going to be an action-packed 3 and a bit days. One of the innovations that we are launching this year and we announced this week was the BCH Guru markets. So we actually have a live prediction market as to what the attendees of Bliss will say about the 1 minute blocks fabulous upgrade chip from Bitcoin Cash orders. I'm very excited about this. So the way it is going to work is that we have this prediction sheet on the left. We'll have paper copies of that. Everyone will get a copy of that. We'll have a box that people can put their votes in, whether they want to say they're yes in support of 1 minute blocks, no, or unsure. I don't know. And then once the timer has run out on that at the end of sort of day one, we'll crack open the box and find out what percentage of the attending audience are in favor of or not in favor of this chip proposal. And in the meantime, before we get to that point, you are able to speculate on the BCH Guru prediction market and try and put your own furu on the line if you think that sentiment is going to be strongly in favor of 1 minute blocks or against 1 minute blocks. And the part that I think is going to be most interesting to see is that this all interacts, which is that people at the event are obviously they have a vote, but they're also able to ask other people what they think, and they're able to go on the market and put their money in there if they have a strong sense of how things are going. And the reverse for people who are remote, they can monitor the markets quite closely, and then they can also try and message people who are at Bliss and watch the live stream to see what direction they think things might be heading in. So I believe this is a world first. I don't know that anybody has done anything like this, a crypto conference with a prediction market running, let alone one, in anticipation of a decentralized network upgrade. I'm very sure that's a world first. So we put this up yesterday, I think, or maybe the day before. I'm losing track, but currently the very first trading had a very interesting yes was at 1.15 odds. So, and no is at 3 to 1 odds. So there's a huge spread, which is presumably an opportunity for some arbitrage if somebody wants to start getting involved in that. I can't do it to maintain impartiality, but I was like, oh, this is a bit of a market opportunity. And secondly, it's also actually quite surprising to me that yes is so heavily favored. It started at about 1.4 odds and has dropped to 1.15 odds. What do you make of this, Mathieu? What do you think? What are the odds that the Bliss crowd are backing 1 minute blocks?
Yeah, I'll need to talk to some people at the Bliss conference first, but yeah, I think I can do a trade here to adjust at least the spread, but also maybe some of these odds. Yeah, my personal opinion, I think we talked about it in back in December, is I think it would, from a technical point of view, I think it would be a good idea. But is the community in support? Are you in support? Yeah, so that's an interesting proposition.
Yeah, so you kind of get your own opinion is your poll response. If you're there at Bliss, if you're not, tough luck. Come along next time.
Yeah, so I give the market some more info by saying my personal opinion, but then right. what do I think the market will settle on? That's
right. That's right. So the market kind of aggregates the chance of the community's opinion, which I think is really quite interesting. So I'm fascinated to see how this plays out and whether this then potentially could be the way that all chips happen. That we could. I mean, of course, this is not determinative. Like, it doesn't make a difference one way or another. Yeah. There's no part of the chip process that involves prediction markets. But the reality is that if we have this market, people will be watching it and thinking, maybe this is more supported than I thought, or maybe there's more confusion about it or less support.
So can I ask one question about it? So if you click a box, the yes, no, or unsure for the participants who attend, like, do they already get some results, or is it just like vote register?
No. So this is going to be, we're going to print this out on pieces of paper, Everybody
Okay.
gets a piece of paper in your
Okay.
like welcome bag, and you can just tick. It's anonymous too. Like we're not. I mean, you can if you want to audit it, you can write some graffiti or something on the side, and then check that that's in the final results when we open the box, and we haven't tampered with the box, right? But you just tick one of these 3 boxes and put it in a box like a poll box, a ballot box, and then at the end of the day, we'll see what the
Okay, so that's
community
important,
sentiment
right?
is.
At the end of the conference day, then.
Yeah, well, we're not going to open the box. See, nobody's going to be opening the
Nobody
box
knows
until the market is closed.
Yeah,
That's
okay,
right.
that makes
Exactly.
sense.
Yeah. And this is so my idea. I mean, we'll see, but my idea is this is for day 1. So we're going to do a day 1 sentiment poll, and then I would also like to do a day 3 poll as well, so we can see if over the course of Bliss everybody's discussing, maybe opinions have changed one way or another. But we can't open the day 3 market until we've closed the day 1 market, because we'll need to see what is the current level, and then we can do a second one. Is it going to be like higher or lower, maybe?
So is the poll that happens at Bliss is just a poll, right? Whatever the prediction market here is whether or not it's going to get locked in.
No, the prediction market. Well, I should have had a screenshot of that, right? But the prediction market is, will more than 50% of people say yes? Will the majority of poll respondents
so
say yes?
What if I bribe Bliss attendees?
Well, you can do that. This is our prediction. This is a live test of prediction
markets in action.
You're very welcome to do that. But if you do that, your risk, of course, is that news about that will spread around the event, and then the odds will adjust on the market.
We might also have competing bribes then.
Yeah, it's a free market, mate.
I have a lot of Furu tokens I don't know what to do with, and this might be a fun little exercise in chaos.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. I'm fascinated to see how it turns out. It's going to be, live at Bliss, a world first experience. We're going to see what happens. I honestly have no idea, but I'm
so one extra thing to interject is, so it's called the BCH Guru plus Bliss 2026 Layla prediction sheet. So the sheet itself doesn't have the prediction, right?
No.
They would have to go to the app. Yeah. Okay,
yes.
I see.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we've got the QR codes there, so you can look at the actual markets. I guess maybe this should say poll sheet. Maybe I'll update that so that it's clearer. But I expect that people will be able to look at the market themselves and think about it. I mean, the market's already up, so people can look at it and get a sense of it. And we're also announcing this now so that people can think through it for a day or two. And then obviously we'll also explain it live while we're there so that everybody is clear. But I think I'm just so excited. There's so many different elements to this in terms of, I think it's very fun for the people who are at Bliss, because you have a little extra power, in terms of your opinion. You can also, poll people on the ground to try and figure out what's going on. And of course, people can trade the market either remotely or live in person. So
I'll do a private raffle if you can prove that you voted yes to this. I'll maybe do like an eat-out. I've still got that one BCH, the only one BCH eat-out token.
Yeah, there you go. You're welcome to try and influence the voting in any way you want. And like I said,
am I committing crimes here?
This doesn't impact the chip process itself, and obviously it's just going to be a fun thing to try at Bliss. But then we'll see, maybe if it goes really well, maybe BCH Gurus will make a constantly running event for will 1 minute blocks lock in, and we'll be able to see that trade over the time until November, and potentially also for other chip proposals as well. The same thing could happen. Could also have markets for will this lock in this year or next year, and then you could see the odds of what people felt like for the current year versus giving it more time to mature. I don't know, there's a lot of ways this could go, but it's an experiment. So
yeah, I really like it.
We'll see. Bliss innovating. I want Bliss obviously to be the most
the only time I will be happy to vote.
It's a voluntary vote. It's a percentage. So, I mean, you can bribe people not to submit a vote if you want. But yeah, it'll just be based on that. And I'm thrilled that we're able to continue to innovate. Like Bliss already has the Layla NFT tickets. We had them purchasable by an online market, and now we've upgraded to being able to buy them with a Wallet Connect directly on the website, which again is something we're iterating on year over year. That will get better and better. Now we have BCH Guru markets, prediction markets live at Bliss, and yeah, maybe we'll have more things as time goes on. Quick mention of the packing list for anybody that is coming to Bliss. We just made a quick little checklist that you can make sure, obviously bring your NFT ticket and have somewhere to stay, but also bring some BCH, wear some BCH merch. Don't forget your Jessica and Velma NFTs. We might have some small bonuses if you bring those along, and you can join the Layla's Only Bliss Telegram group at t.me/Layla Lounge. That is another innovation that we have added. So you can only talk, everyone can read it, and in future we'll find a way to make it so that it's private. You can't even read it unless you're in there, but to write in there, you have to verify your Layla NFT. So it is Layla's Only in there. All right, that's enough about Bliss, although it is just part of a general trend that I wanted to quickly touch on. Callisti and gang have been doing the BTC conference and also Consensus in America, and it's been quite interesting to hear their feedback from that those conferences have largely been swallowed up into sort of TradFi and TradFi aligned cryptos such as Ripple, BTC, Base, Tron, and ETH, whereas the more P2P cash, the whole point of crypto kind of crew, BCH, Monero, Dash, Litecoin, Nano, eCash, at least one of the two eCashes, etc., is sort of more in that P2P cash vibe, is not being heavily represented at conferences. And I even saw this other guy, Clouted. He said, quote, "So I just rocked up to the actual Consensus Conf, and my first two reactions is, one, holy shit, everything is so institutional, real world assets, stablecoin focused. Everything is centralized offerings, like to an insane degree. Not a single actual decentralized thing I can see on at least initial walk around. Two, holy fucking shit, Charles Hoskinson is working on another L1, end quote. So that's kind of the sentiment in the industry at large. Obviously, like I said, Mathieu, you've been on the ball with getting on the stablecoin trend, which is now rolling in the broader industry. But I'm wondering if you had any reflections on the potentially struggling P2P cash vision in the broader industry.
I think we even see this to some extent in the relative size of the decentralized stable coins, which are more crypto ethos in that they are crypto collateralized. So if you use these stable coins, then you actually grow the total value locked and the native assets that needs to be collateralized for this token to be issued. But yeah, if you use the centralized stable coins, you're really just using dollars in a bank, right? So you're strengthening the fiat system. So I think there's and as I said, the relative size of these, so Tether and USDC, are far bigger than even DAI, which is now called Sky, or Liquidity V2 stablecoin is called Bolt. So even the decentralized stablecoins, which I like a lot, and the spirit and the ethos, they still have a lot of catching up to do. And even though that the trustlessness and permissionlessness is way better than for the earlier today, I read yet another report of how many tethers were frozen or confiscated or somehow made inaccessible to the owners. And I'm sure they have their explanation, which they will non-transparently not disclose. But so those, I guess, are my high-level thoughts on the different stable coins and how they relate to decentralization.
But are you feeling optimistic that the decentralized versions can win out over time? Is it sort of centralized is efficient and quick and maybe doing a better job as, the world adapts to this new potential of cryptocurrency, but decentralization is going to win? Or do you think we're in danger of the whole vision just getting swallowed up and being forgotten about through crushing economic force as time goes on?
Yeah, we're definitely in danger of the original vision and P2P electronic cash is definitely in danger. So I think it's important to acknowledge that. Maybe there is a scenario where it stays the case that USDC and Tether are the biggest stable coins, even though they are centralized, and that one of them has to blow up or has to have some kind of scandal before the general market realizes the importance of the trustlessness and permissionlessness and all these values. It might be the case that TradFi only adopts crypto because the version of crypto that they are adopting is the TradFi version, right? It's the centralized exchange, centralized, permissioned, and trusted. So I would say none of these words are the correct. Like, it's much better to have the counterpart, trustless, permissionless. But yeah, so that's how I see it. There's definitely a fight, I guess, or like a war on this front to from TradFi to kind of take over crypto and only use it as the payment rails, but still have their controlled system, which I hope is not the way it turns out, but it will need a vigilant community or like vigilant ecosystem. It will take a lot of hard work, is what I'm trying to say, to actually make the original vision happen. And I think we all realize this in Bitcoin Cash, right? But it's worth restating that it just takes so much work and effort by people actually more aligned with the original cypherpunk vision.
Yeah, and this is something I wanted to touch on the show a little bit, because obviously we'll see at BLISS, and I'm sure this will be a major talking point, but in our eternal quest as to how to grow BCH faster, I'm really getting the sense that being on the ground at conferences is going to be critical. And that's not something that the BCH community, I would say, has historically ever done a great job at, really, among all the chaos of the initial split, and then people fragmenting all over the place, and then people just being simply like, going to conferences takes a lot of resources, takes a lot of time, a lot of resources, especially if you want to get several people there, even though you can do some promotion of BCH or whatever product or service you're working on. So it's not like, there's plenty of benefits to going, but it's just not been a priority for the community. And that's part of what has cut us out of the discussion in a lot of areas of the cryptocurrency industry. And for us to pull that back, it's starting to get to the point that we really need to make a more concentrated effort on conferences, specifically on two fronts. One is hosting our own, like BLISS and like others as well. And obviously, you've got to run them reliably and then grow them slowly over time, but also to do more outreach, going to these other cryptocurrency conferences and getting in people's face to talk about BCH, because that just has such greater impact on them.
Yeah, so one thing that comes up for me is this question whether we should focus on, for example, this first quote has that the conference is so institutionalized, right? And I think there's definitely those conferences for the suit coiners, as the term is now coined. But so there's also, of course, more underground or probably niche conferences that's more aligned with this peer-to-peer cash alliance. So what would you say in terms of resources? Should we pick out like the smaller conferences, which presumably are closer to the ground, or like at what point would these institutional conferences make sense? Like, I'm interested in to hear. Yeah.
Well, my take is, firstly, I would need to go to, I think, a couple of these to get more of a vibe. Like, I went to OpNext, which is basically on the smaller end of the spectrum. And I think the impact that we made there was massive, between Jet and Callisti and Jerry and myself, like just having us circulating around there, talking to different people, etc. It seems to have made a significant dent in a number of influential people's thinking about BCH, because what we all need to understand is that BCH is quite small, and that for a lot of people, they genuinely have never met like a passionate BCH person in real life. They might have been into crypto for several years. They've even been going to conferences. They've been going to meetups. They're blah, 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 whatever.
Not only that, they might not even have heard one speak, right? Just our arguments or just our vibe. Yeah.
Exactly. Nothing, And so then obviously there is definitely negative sentiment online. Oh, BCH is all bots and blah, blah, blah. Some of that is just like, suppression and so forth. But some of it is just genuine organic people that are like, I've heard about BCH and everybody kind of talks about it a bit, but I've never actually met anyone. Like, is this even a real thing, right? They're just genuinely confused. And so it's more important for us to get on the ground there. And then suddenly it only takes one, right? If you've never met a BCH person, then you think, is this some weird online scam? Then you meet one, you think, oh, wow, there are actually real people. Even if they think, oh, this guy's kind of clueless or doesn't get it or something. Even if they have a negative impression of you, just the fact that they've met a real person will already, speak for itself, right? And even more if you have a group, if you go to a conference with 3-4 people, A, that's more fun. But then B, it also really is to them like, oh, wow, they can see that there is an organic community going on, right? So I think we need to make a bigger effort on that. In terms of bigger or smaller conferences, my instinct is we need to do both, but with slightly different strategy, right? So the larger ones, you kind of want to try and track down the big money, basically. I think that would be the benefit of those is you get there, you run around, and that's the kind of place you can meet people who just have high net worth, or they've got money, or they're looking for something to invest in or get involved in. And like maybe like ParyonUSD, or you show them something like that, and they really think, oh wow, I can get involved in this seriously. Whereas the smaller ones, that would be more about trying to find the influential people in other cryptocurrency communities and talk to them about BCH, see what reservations they have, see why they might or might not be interested. Like for me specifically, maybe try and get them on the podcast to talk about BCH, that kind of thing, right? So I think probably it just depends on the conference what the strategy needs to be.
Yeah, and I think for the real niche conferences, like for Up Next, it would probably be hard, but for some of the ones Callisti listed, like XMR, Dash, LTC, and those lists, like presumably we could even have a speaker if we put in the effort, or like collaborate on building the conference to some extent. So yeah, I think if you want to build an alliance, there would be a room for these smaller. But at the Vegas conference or something, I'm less sure that someone could get on stage and preach the good word. Probably not, or like not at this time at least.
Well, that's it. We have to build up to that.
Yes.
Like that's only going to happen if you go a couple times.
Yes.
You check the vibe, you meet a couple people, you're cool and interested, a connection forms, and then maybe you do come up in a later year as somebody to have on a panel or what. Like you just build that credibility slowly. I mean, you went to the eCash conference and had a great time there, right? So it's clearly a beneficial thing to do. Kyle says in the chat, been on BTC since 2012 and all in on BCH from day one, but have no interest in a conference as I imagine it's just big companies and people trying to sell something. Where do the real builders hang out? ? So, I mean, that's kind of it. Yes, there are people at conferences who are from big companies, and yes, there are people just trying to sell stuff, but there's also plenty of real builders. That's the whole point. These events are hubs for people who are in the industry. Some of them might be at big companies, some of them might be at small companies, some of them are running their own thing, some are just finding out about cryptocurrency for the first time, they're doing research. Like it's just a whole mix of people. And the point is, if you're not there, you're not in that mix. If you are, you can find your way onto whichever people or connections or projects or whatever seem interesting to you and or that seem welcoming to discuss with you. But if you're just not there, you're not there. It's that simple. So I really would say we do need to be proactively involved in it and not just trying to dismiss it as something that's for suit coiners or not important or something, because it is. It's just where the action is happening. I don't know, Jet, do you have any thoughts? Conferencing? You want to go to some more conferences?
Sorry about that. Yeah, I think it might also be beneficial to start going to conferences that have nothing to do with cryptocurrency. Right? I said on the last episode that I went to the Tattoo Expo, and I had gone to that same Tattoo Expo in 2017 and 2018, both as a sponsor and a vendor, where I was trying to onboard people to Bitcoin Cash, and it seemed easier then than it does now. So, like the I think that 2017 hype of like normal people getting involved in cryptocurrency gave me a little bit of space on those first couple of years. And I know that the tattoo artists specifically are pretty okay with tax avoidance, maybe a little bit of tax evasion. So like so much of the industry is just done in cash. And yeah, I think like tattoo and piercing folks, I think things like imagine if AVN, the Adult Video Network Awards or whatever, was like, yeah, we've got, I don't know, or any, like there's massive industries that can really take advantage of this that we haven't made any inroads to, that I think would be almost more impactful than going to other cryptocurrency conferences.
Yeah, and you just have to be there in person. I think that's really the main thing. Like, I understand that obviously BCH is A, small, B, decentralized, C, quite geographically distributed, and D, not necessarily like funded by some huge spigot of centralized money or something like a lot of these other coins, where that's the kind of thing that they spend that money on. They say, okay, we're going to send people to all these conferences. Okay, we're going to pay to have a booth. Okay, we're going to, pay to get one speaker who shills our project for 20 minutes or whatever. And the thing is, okay, we don't have that centralized pot of money, but we do still need to compete in that niche, because if we're not a part of those conversations, we're just going to miss out. And that's what's been happening so far. And I can't fault the BCH community, because there's been too many other things to worry about. There's been, getting rid of all the internal infighting, working on the protocol, working on the wallets and the infrastructure, starting to launch DeFi. Like, there's been so much stuff that has been worked on. It's not like we've been doing the wrong thing. We've been doing the right thing. But we're now at a more stable point that I feel we can reach out into the industry to kick it up a level. So I think everybody should definitely be thinking in those terms, and hopefully we'll see a lot more of that. Bliss is a great start. Obviously, everybody can meet and discuss at Bliss, but hopefully there's also some strategizing there about what is on the cryptocurrency or the other calendar, and just how to get involved and really represent BCH there. Show up looking good with lots of merch, have good ways to follow up. Like, if you go in with a plan, you're going to do a lot better, right? Rather than just showing up, oh, I like BCH. No, like, let me show you these specific things. Here's a cash stamp, onboarding people directly, following up with them about what they're interested in. Like, really just that sales and promotion element, I think we could do a lot better on overall. All right. Well, we're already a little bit over time, so let's wrap it up. We've got the quick meme of the week from Almas Dust, one of the top BCH memers that made this one this week. It's from iPhone Messages. Babe, $15,000 out of our checking account, ? Exclamation mark, ? Exclamation mark. Is it what I think it is? With 3 little diamond ring emojis. And then the bottom half is of the meme is a successful 31.459 BCH purchased. Your assets are now in your spot account. So that one made me laugh this week for anybody with joint finances.
And so once, if you want to take it a step further and then feel obligated to still buy the diamond ring, it would be nice if you can take out a loan against the BCH, right? So I see some opportunities even with a meme if you are in that situation for some reason.
That's it. Buy the BCH. Well, maybe you could stake it a little bit on Parion, or you could take out a loan and then pick up a ring, and your girl doesn't even need to know that it's all financed in BCH.
We did a small round trip, but in the end.
Right, exactly. Oh well, a good girl will be in support of taking care of your financial situation first. Okay, and message to the community, Matthew. You know how it goes. Open slather. What does the BCH community need to hear?
Oh, I haven't prepared one, but I'll go. I'll speak from the heart. So I think it would be great for people to use, like when new products and dApps ship, to give it a try, give feedback, say what you like and what you don't like, and then of course say if you find things useful to share them, and otherwise. If you don't find them useful, I guess not use them. But so we should aim to build useful products. And so earlier today, we in the chat we talked also about, you and I, Jeremy, we talked about entrepreneurship. And so I really want to encourage entrepreneurship because in some sense you have a lot of ideas how things ought to be in BCH and how things ought to make inroads here or there, but it really takes, as we said, years of continued effort to work towards a goal. And I think that, maybe that's my most important message, is that instead of only speaking to what you think is important, to help build it. And entrepreneurship is like a great way to do something in a sustainable, long-term way, and also capture some of the value you create, and then have a plan that you can grow something, have ownership, and then manifest the vision you have. So, for example, if 2 or 3 years ago we talked and I would say, I really think there should be more non-custodial financial services on BCH, it's like a pretty cheap thing to say, like just by saying it, that doesn't, but that's a start. You first need to want there to be something, and then you take the consistent actions that help towards realizing this goal. And I think entrepreneurship is a great way. Of course, it's hard paving the way, and I think in some sense, General Protocols deserves a shout out and respect for paving the way with network upgrades, creating AnyHedge, creating like the first real non-custodial financial products on Bitcoin Cash, but I would even dare to say on Bitcoin as a protocol and as an ID. And then, it's up to us to take that even further, like to make the contracts maybe more useful and more complex and more, or invent these new things like staking and borrowing, and so new financial opportunities. And the end goal, of course, is to make a useful product that really improves people's lives, but it's a long road to get there. So. That would be my overall message. Shout out to General Protocols. Let's try to emulate their success, try to put the bar high for others, and realize the vision, so it's not only cheap talk, but it's actual real value created for real BCH.
Love it. Okay, shout out to our FundMe contributors. Our FundMe is still running. It's about 75% or 80% done. There's a BCH podcast one and a Selene one, which are both looking for funding. So if you're enjoying the show and what we're doing, you can throw some sats in there. If you've never used fundme.cash before, there's an opportunity to try out another BCH app as a bit of a bonus. So shout out to Majamalu, Eyes on the Ball, Molecular, the show we love, at Cash Stamps, use BCH for the win. So mix a bit, I like big int, I cannot lie, no op, celebrating the devs, emergent reasons, appreciate what you do, hope you all stay grounded in truth and reality, real money for the world, and Cash Dragon, essential work. Thanks. Anybody who donates at least half of BCH can get on that slide. Our donators and patrons, Ricky, Kyle, and HP, and our sponsors, General Protocols. Check out bchbull.com. Of course, you can find all the past episodes of the show, start guide, FAQ, and a lot more at Bitcoin Cash Podcast. Try out Selene Wallet at selene.cash, and I'll see everybody at Bliss in a few days. Final shout outs, Mathieu.
So my shout out goes to General Protocols. For paving the way and showing that it's possible. So I think to a large extent, people first need to know that it is possible to build a successful product and a successful company on top of BCH, that you can create like novel services that didn't exist before crypto and Bitcoin Cash was a thing. You didn't have non-custodial financial services, so they really pioneered. And and so it's up to us to take their example, take their lessons, and try to go even a step beyond. And then who knows who will be the next person who tries to take it try to take it even a step further. So my attempt really with Paryon is to do my best, and then open source the tooling and infrastructure for the next person and share our lessons. So more of our lessons will be in the BLISS talk, and I hope people will take it and build their own stuff.
Jet, final shout out.
I'll piggyback on the general protocol shout out. I also have a shout out to Opreturn and Josh Ellithorpe for getting BCHD ready for the next upgrade.
Amazing. Yes. And so this is your reminder to everybody to upgrade your nodes in preparation for the upgrade. And my shout out goes to Steve Thurman, Callisti, Double O Tats, Carl, and everybody else, Ken, who was at the conferences representing BCH. Steve has a really good video, a 13-minute video that he did with some highlights of them walking around at the conferences, interviewing different people about BCH, showing them how to use cash stamps, a bit of the vibe, a bit of what's going on. And in that, you can really see the effort and the work those guys are putting in to represent BCH in the industry and building connections and credibility. And it inspired this segment we did about the conferences. I think that's it. It's like physical infrastructure needs to be a big area of concern for the next year of BCH. Protocols looking good, DeFi is starting to emerge, wallets are in a good spot, but funding and conferences to me are probably the two biggest things that I think we can do to level up our game at the moment. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on. And just, big shout out to those guys because they're putting in huge work to pave the way there. All right. I'll see you all at BLISS. Thank you all for listening. Till next time.
At 10, Donald Trump says the war with Iran was the last best chance to stop the country's regime.
I'm honest with the name that was not spoken in last night's State of the Union message, Jeffrey Epstein.
Got Bitcoin Court backed by MIT, and apparently, Larry, you will own nothing.
Developers.
83
and strike. Bitcoin has been hijacked.
There will be no real non-controlled currency in the world.
Bitcoin Cash on its path to global reserve currency.
I waited years for this. I made myself so sick, waiting for Layla to come around. Hate hijacked freedom sound, but you can't keep a bad bitch down. Layla's looping back into town. I'm seeing the freedom now. Her 12 words are seeds of power. Their toxic idols fly, private jets in the bluest skies, and watch us down below as we die. Suffering for sins that we never did commit. Turn around, pay your taxes to pedophiles. Fuck this. I'm seeing the freedom now. Her 12 words are seeds of power. They're coming from underground to uproot their world so sour. And let freedom ring. Let freedom ring. Yeah. Here comes Layla and she cool. Look at how she moves. ain't no Sandy long-lived fool. She stomps on the face with her boots. Yeah, I saw her climb the cops, rolls in bank accounts too. But Layla's got the final puzzle piece. She's taking back money.
In a separate email from Epstein sent to early Bitcoin developer Amir Taki on April 19, 2014, Epstein told Taki that he just had handyman, likely referring to
satanic pregnancies to miscarry right now. We declare that anything that's been conceived in satanic law. Sick of all their noise. I'm seeing the freedom now. Her 12 words are seeds of power. When Layla comes back,